We cannot organize and scale our businesses unless we organize and scale ourselves.
Yes, the numbers show this, but what does your happiness say?
Whenever you reach a level of mastery, you're a beginner again. Like a 10 is the new one. Inside, we pursue these external things to facilitate internal worth.
Hello, my fellow Ripplers. This is Chris Miles, your cash flow expert and anti-financial advisor. Thank you for joining our show today because this show is for you. Those that work so hard for your money and you're now ready for your money to start working harder for you today. You don't want to wait 30 or 40 years from now. You want it today so you can live that life that you love with those you love. But I know, just like you know, that's not just about getting rich. It's about living a rich life because as you're blessed financially, you have a greater capacity to bless the lives of those around you as you financially prosper. Guys, thank you for joining us today. I appreciate you binging. You've been sharing this with others. Thank you so much for reaching out to other people and bringing them to our fold because, man, without that, we could not create a ripple effect of freedom and prosperity without you. So thank you so much. Also, guys, I want to remind you, go to moneyripples.com if you're looking to create passive income right now. We get so many people saying, well, how do I do it? Go to moneyripples.com. There's a passive income calculator, and there's lots of other resources and tools that you can use to figure out what you can do in your situation right now. So check that out. All right, guys. So I'm bringing on a guest today that's Staci Gray. Now, if you ever wondered, especially if you're a business owner, like, how do I really scale and grow my business? How do I do it in a way that doesn't drive me nuts? How do I do it in a way where I actually have some time freedom versus building a much bigger rat race for myself, right? That's what I want to talk to Staci about today, who's had over 2 decades of experience in the business world, getting real results for people, helping them organize to scale, which, by the way, name of her business. You can also find her at Staci Gray. You can find all those handles also in the show notes here. You can follow her on Instagram, Facebook, almost anywhere you follow on social media, she's there. So Staci, welcome to our show.
I'm so happy to be here, and I love that you're helping people create freedom, real freedom.
Yeah, not the fake stuff, right? Not the stuff that says like, the boats and the planes and all that kind of crap that we all know that they just, got a picture in front of it. It's not their plane, so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think too, a lot of people wake up in their dream life and it doesn't feel like they thought it would. And so
That's
it's the
true.
inner freedom and the outer freedom.
That's so true. You can look outwardly free, but still be inward trapped, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, give us some background on you. Like, I mean, have you had experience with that yourself, or what kind of led you to be working with business owners like the way you are today?
Well, it started actually when my mom got diagnosed with cancer. So she got diagnosed in 2015. And previous to that, I had bought my first property when I was 18, made a lot of money, lost it all, realized the money didn't define me. So then you wake up in your dream life, lose it, and then you're like, "Ooh, what is my identity as a human?" And then that journey for me was catapulted again when my mom got cancer. And my dad, who was the co-host for the Real Estate Guys radio show for 2 decades, called me and said, "Hey, can you come help run all of our family businesses? Because your mom has cancer and I'm working around the clock and we need to research and study and figure out a way to help support her through this process." And so I was like, "Yeah, I'll come, but I want time freedom too. And I want to be there with her. So I'm going to put all these systems in place." I didn't know at the time it would later become organized to scale. I just was like reading Traction and Scaling Up and Profit First and eMyth and just like figuring it all out and putting all these systems into place. And it worked so well. I spent the last 18 months of my mom's life with her, taking her to her appointments, holding her hand when her soul transitioned. And then all of the investors and entrepreneurs and business owners in our real estate community started asking me to help them organize and scale their capital raising businesses and property management businesses and brokerages. And I was like, I don't know if I can translate what I did in these businesses into yours, but a few of them were so gracious and let me do it one-on-one with them. And I quickly realized like these systems work and they're duplicatable and I can help a lot of businesses. So I went on to help quite a few businesses organize to scale. And I walked them through this 3-step process, which is step 1 is architect. And real estate folks get this, like you have a blueprint before you break ground. You don't just break ground. And
Right.
so we would take their idea and say, okay, what at the end of this, what kind of lifestyle do you want? What types of people do you want to work with? What do you enjoy doing? What drains you? What do you see this looking like? And then day two, we would process map it. We would say, okay, there's 7 to 10 core functions in your business. Like, how do you market? How do you sell? How do you fulfill? How do you build community? How do you manage cash flow? How do you do financial reporting? All of those things. And then we would process map it. And then day three turned into action planning, which is now that you have this big, hairy, audacious goal, you know where you're going, you can see the front of the puzzle box, you've got to get the infrastructure in place. So we would then create a 90-day action plan, which is this is how you execute. So that whole process is just architect. And then you have to go to build, which is where you build the essential infrastructure. You lay the foundation, you get your email list going, you get your online presence going, you join some networking events, you start building community. And then step three is operate, where you plug like a property manager in and tenants in to run the day to day. And when we broke it down into that, it really helped because probably like you identify more as a visionary, even though you have like an integrator.
Mhm.
So there's certain personality profiles, and some people are really great at architecting, but if you ask them to do the same thing over and over again every single day, they'd want to poke their eyeballs out. Like they do
Mhm.
not want to do that. And then you have people who love the routine work. They love just knowing what they need to get done, checking the box and doing it. But if you ask them to create a vision or create a blueprint for a business, they couldn't do it. And so what we learned through that whole process was getting the right people in the right seats, really understanding our unique wiring as human beings, and then rallying it around a blueprint and a cause and workflows and processes to help them establish those things so they can create those systems in their business so they don't end up trapped, playing whack-a-mole when, oh, this deal came up, we got to go quickly do this, or oh, the toilet went out over here, now I got to quickly go do this, and you're just reacting to all of the demands of your portfolio or your business, instead having a more proactive approach. And that starts with having clarity on your idea so that you actually build a business and a portfolio that serves the thing that you want, so that you don't wake up in your dream life and like, I have everything I want, but I'm not doing what I want to be doing.
If you've been following this podcast, you're probably looking for great ways to create passive income right now, right? Well, we got you covered here with Central Lending. Central Lending specializes in alternative investments that actually are designed to create steady returns and long-term financial security for you and your family. Now, they prioritize transparency. They love, building those strong relationships, giving you that confidence and peace of mind, knowing that you have your money working harder for you, so you don't have to work so hard for that money. You want to learn more how to do that? Go to centrallending.com and check out what they've got today to create your passive income and wealth creation right now. That reminds me, I mean, that architecture piece is so important because many people think, oh, I just know I want this. And it reminds me of a conversation that we had on our show with Pace Morby. I had our friend Pace Morby on here, and Pace, it was funny. It was after I did the same intro, like you just heard me say. He's like, Chris, I'm thinking about the intro you said, and that's the freedom I want, and I don't have it. He said, he's like, I remember like getting into real estate. I wanted to get that 100 doors. That was the magic number that everybody has to get to. Then you get to 100 doors and you get around other real estate investors. And it's like, no, it has to be 1,000 doors now, right? It's got to be 1,000 doors now. And he's like, now I'm going on like 2,000 doors. And now it's supposed to be 10,000 doors. Like, when does it stop? He's like, and he's like, I talked to somebody who only has 50 doors, paid off, free and clear, just taking the cash flow, and he's totally happy and feels free, doesn't spend all the time. Like, I have a massive empire that I have to manage all of these doors. He's like, Chris, maybe I'm doing it all wrong. I mean, do you see
Mhm.
that happen a lot of times in business, especially with real estate investors?
Yeah, I call it getting trapped in the bigger, better, more.
Yeah.
And I think this happens when we don't define for ourselves what is enough. And I think there's two levels. So there's the what I call earth mode, everything you can see
Mhm.
with your eyes open. And there's an enough point. It's like you could say, okay, well, now I have a private jet. Well, now I want 3 private jets, or I have
Mm.
a mansion. Well, I want 5 mansions. Okay, well, at some point, what is externally enough? What I've noticed is that every human being inside, we pursue these external things to facilitate internal worth. Like if I have more doors, if I have more assets, if I have more revenue, if I have another zero in my bank account, then I will feel more worthy. So
Mm.
I think it's important that we define our external enough. And then I do feel that for me personally, you also have an internal enough. But the internal enough for me is it's not enough, and it's never enough because it's not about me. And I heard that from somebody else, which really resonated with me, because I think when you achieve your external enough, you realize you want to flip on the switch and start serving. And the service then becomes empowerment. Like I care so much about what wealth creation has done for me and my family that now I want to be of service. And it's not about another jet, another door, another zero in your bank account. It becomes about how many people you can help turn the lights on for them in their business, in their life, in their portfolio, where they can then say, you know what, 50 doors is enough externally. And now I want to start a membership. I want to start a club. I want to start speaking. I want to write a book. I want to start a podcast. I want to build an in-person community, because this is where transformation takes place. And you care more about the people than you do about the collection of treasures, if you will, on earth. And it becomes something more. And for me, that switch happened. I do feel, though, to your point, that sometimes we get the clarity around what is enough when we're climbing that ladder. And then we're like, man, I keep climbing this ladder. I keep climbing this ladder, and it's still not materializing and giving me what I want. And then that's when I think the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, gives you that enough is enough moment. A financial crisis happens, a relationship crisis happens, something happens, and you're like, wait, I'm getting my priorities wrong. I need to have clarity on my identity as who I am as a person and what fills me up. And then beneath it, I'll bring in all of these skills, all of these talents, all of these resources, all of these connections that I have from being this badass, business builder, investor, and I'll put it underneath that cause. And I feel like that alignment then becomes fulfilling versus just, like you said, this rat race of achievement that doesn't actually bring the wealth we're looking for.
Oh, that's so true, so powerful. It reminds me of the last recession, and well, not the one that people say was the last one. It's not 2020. We don't count that one, right? But when we talk about like the Great Recession, the global financial crisis of 2007 through 9 and so on. Like I remember for me, it took me losing almost everything to find out that I had everything, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense,
Yes.
right? Like I had to detach myself from stuff because before that time, like 2006, 2007, my pride, my ego was all built up on the things I had and the money I was making. But then when it was all taken away, I was like, well, then who am I? And you have this existential crisis, right? And like, well, does that change who I am? Like, no, it doesn't. I'm no more or less having more or less money. And then you start to realize that. And then pretty soon you're kind of detached from the stuff. You don't care about all the boats and the planes and the cars as much, and people are
Yeah.
like, it's sad like when I go to a party, or whatever it might be with some of my friends and they're all driving these nice cars and my car's nice. It's a souped up Nissan Maxima, right? It's like it's not like the freaking Lamborghinis and the Ferraris that people are driving. And I'm like, I know I probably make more money than all these guys do, but I got the cheapest car, not because I'm trying to live cheap, but just because I just don't care. It's like I just want a nice car I can drive around in. I feel it's just good enough, it's going to be reliable and I'm good, and
And what you're describing is freedom.
yeah.
That's freedom, because you don't care what other people think of you. And you could have $1 million sitting in the bank account, and it's like, oh, I'm driving in a Subaru. And I'm
Yeah.
totally okay. And I'm wearing flip-flops, and my hair is sometimes brushed, sometimes it's not. And I don't care.
Are
That
you
is like,
describing me right now? I seriously did. I like barely brushed my hair just before I came on camera. So
I
you
mean,
you're just mocking me at this point.
that's freedom. That's true freedom. And so that
Mhm.
gift of the GFC and losing it all and having that identity, what was an identity crisis turned into the biggest gift of your life, is like, I hope everybody gets that experience, because it
Yeah.
it changes you as a person, and it allows you to start building and creating from a place of I'm whole, I'm complete, I'm lacking nothing. And that place of creation is a gift to the world. And I think if we can
Yeah.
help more people get there, the gift is just, it's a blessing, and it helps people feel like they're not in lack, they're not in survivor mode, they're not deficient as a human being, because they're not another zero or another door is going to change that. However, then the game of another zero, another door becomes a game, and it's fun. And it's like, I want to play it because I get to pull these leverage levers. I get to pull these relationship levers. I get to create community, and I don't have to agendize people to achieve. It's just a collaborative effort to create something that the world will benefit from.
Yeah. Oh,
Mhm.
so true. And do you find that being like the number one challenge when you're, I mean, I'm sure you have lots of challenges. You're trying to deal with like the whole visionary, and integrated relationships and things like that, as well as the whole business systems. I mean, is that usually one of your biggest obstacles is just dealing with their head trash? Is that kind of where you run into more of your objections and whatnot?
Yes, I have a saying that we cannot organize and scale our businesses unless we organize and scale ourselves.
Mm,
And often when we get this excitement of an idea, we are
mm,
so like, I'm going to go organize the business. I'm going to like raise this amount of money. I'm going to negotiate this deal. I'm going to do this thing. And you'll hear people with these amazing ideas, but they can't execute them, and they're consistently blocked, and you'll hear them blame and complain like, oh, it's the economy, or it's my business partner, or it's the interest rates,
mm,
or you'll hear all of this, and really what they're saying is, I feel deficient in these categories. I don't feel like I am equipped to navigate them, and so I don't want to jump in because I'll be in over my head, and then I'll embarrass myself and I'll expose myself, and that imposter syndrome emerges. And so to what you called head trash.
yeah.
And I think that for me, the biggest lesson as a business owner, entrepreneur has been whenever you reach a level of mastery, you're a beginner again. Like a 10 is the new one.
Hmm.
And that's the 4 levels of mastery. I can't recall who exactly talked about it, but it's like the first level is you're no good and you don't know it. And then the second level is you're no good and you know it. And that's usually where the head trash gets you, because
Yeah.
you start realizing like, oh, I don't know how to do a deal when interest rates are high, or I don't know how to do a deal when I don't have a down payment, or I don't know how to do a deal when I don't have a business partner, or I don't know how to raise capital. And then you start the zone of doubt, as my friend George calls it. And that is where I think a lot of people get stuck, because it's so hard to make the jump from level 2 to level 3, which level 3 is you're getting better, but it takes a lot of effort. And then
Hmm.
level 4 is like, it's second nature. You're driving the car and you don't think about how to drive the car. That's mastery. But if you're a growth oriented person, you're continually going through those 4 levels over and over and over again. So you're continually feeling like a beginner. You're continually feeling like, I got baby giraffe legs. I don't really know how to walk in them. I kind of look silly. I fall over sometimes. And that feeling, a lot of people shy away from, because they want to have it all together and present this package like, I know what I'm doing. I know how to do investing. I know how to run businesses. I know how to be a leader. I know how to be a visionary. I know how to be an integrator. And the reality is you've never been in this moment today at this time with the wiring, with the relationships, and with the skill sets you have today. You never have. I haven't. I haven't been on this podcast at this time doing this conversation. So
Yeah.
even though I've done hundreds of podcasts, I'm still continually evolving as a person. So how I show up, I'm testing things, I'm trying out things. And I think that in order for us to really grow our businesses, grow our portfolios, grow our relationship, grow as leaders, it's getting comfortable. And I don't like the saying getting comfortable being uncomfortable, but it's accepting the reality of growth is jumping the gap,
Mhm.
and jumping the gap requires faith, because you haven't done it before. It requires risk. It requires grit. It requires gratitude. It requires grace. And we have to give that to ourselves. Sometimes we look for that external validation to confirm it before we take the action. But when we can say, you know what, this is what I'm going to do because I can lay my head on my pillow at night being excited that I did 50 doors, 1,000 doors, 2,000 doors, if that's your enough number. And I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to trip and fall. I'm going to say things I wish I didn't say. And it's all going to be okay because that's the journey. And some people hold them back before they start because they don't want to have the messy journey. But the messy journey is where you get all the lessons. And the people that, like you, in the position you're in now, you didn't get there by doing the road perfectly. You got there by just doing the road. You went and you hit a hurdle, you hit an obstacle, you fell down, you lost your money, you reconstructed your identity, you had relationships that worked out, you had relationships that didn't work out, you had deals that worked out, you had deals that went sideways. It's just grit. You had grit and you had grace and you had gratitude for the journey and you just kept going. And I found that it's hard to do that in isolation. I think it's really important that you get in community because when you're in community, you can have somebody else see you and say, hey, I've been there. I did the exact same thing. I fell on my face. I was embarrassed. I hid for a year. But then when I came back out and I started building again, had so much more experience. I understood the power of mentors and coaches. I understood how to have a little bit of cash reserves. You start learning all of these things because you've gone through the journey of doing it wrong or doing it in a way that you had to learn the lesson.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, give us an example of someone who maybe did have to apply this, like they had to get, be uncomfortable, being comfortable, being uncomfortable, so to speak, right? Or being accepting of that fact. What did it take for them? Like, just give us a story, like of one of your clients where they were able to kind of transcend that to a place where they're able to scale and grow much more faster than they were before, maybe if they were doing other business coaching and things like that.
Yeah, I find that most people hit this when they get to the seven-figure mark.
Hmm.
So usually you can do so much and compensate, but when you get to the seven-figure mark, that's when all your demons come out.
Oh yeah.
Everything that you don't want to face, you hit. And when you get there, you can be like, I don't want to, I'm good at seven figures, not interested in clearing the cobwebs of my head or my heart. I'm gonna stick at seven figures. But then there's that little voice that's like, you're meant for more. You can do more than this. Let's turn and face and slay that demon. And I've done this with so many people. So I don't know, I can pick one, but the core thing that happens is when you hit the seven-figure mark, your business becomes your identity. It had become your identity and you didn't realize it. It was just like a slow build and you hit that seven-figure mark and you're defined by the business. But in order for the business to grow, you have to let go. You have to hire people, you have to delegate, you have to be able to, we have a tool called delegate and transcend. So to your point, you have to be able to transcend it. But what happens is when your business is your identity, you have a hard time letting go. And because you have a hard time letting go, you present behavior that people would call control freak. You're like, well, no, now we got to do it this way. And wait, no, I don't want to do it that way. You didn't dot your I's and cross your T's. And like, hold on, let me help you. And you start suffocating the business. And so what I like to do in that situation is we call it putting the pink elephant on the table. What's happening right now is you need to be needed by the business because you don't know who you are without the business. And so let's just have that conversation. And first, one, it's normal. Everybody goes through it. Second, what we're going to do is we're going to start getting clear on the things that you love to do. And so then we start color coding the calendar to be like, okay, when I had that meeting, I was at 10 out of 10. I loved it. And when I had to do that thing, it was like, I did it because I know I needed to do it, but I didn't really enjoy it. And so then we start looking at the calendar and we're like, okay, this 50% of the things lights you up. You're keeping this. And this 50%, we need to learn how to delegate it, but I don't want you to freak out. So what do you need to see to know that this is handled? And that's where we develop the metrics and the KPIs and the CEO dashboard, where there's that visibility. And then there's a transition period where who do you trust to take this over? Because trust is the biggest factor in business. We don't let go because we don't trust. And so trust is earned, trust is built, trust is reinforced, trust is bridged, and we have to do that. And so it's a transition process of, okay, this one thing's coming off. This is the metric that you need. Every week, you're going to get this metric. And then eventually they slowly are like, okay, I don't even need the metric. I don't want the metric at all. I don't even need that. I would just want to do this. Like, why are you bothering me with that? And then that's when the company starts growing, because it's like the trust was built, the team's got it. And then we're slowly just doing that over and over and over again until the visionary ends up in the seat that only they can do and that they love to do. And then the rest of the assembly line, if you will, all gets that same elevation or delegation and transcendence experience of building trust and building confidence, building trust, building confidence. And we keep doing that to let them let go, because then they actually have the business they want and the inside piece that they need to let go.
This is great advice. I'm thinking about even those people that aren't business owners, those that maybe are like just looking to create passive income by investing passively with other investors. All this stuff you've talked about today all applies to that, right? I mean, even the fact of just, what is enough for you, right? How do you define what you want to be? I just literally, before we recorded this, I just talked to a client where I'm like, well, what do you want your investment portfolio to look like with what kind of freedom, right? Because yes, the numbers show this, but what does your happiness say? Like what is it, what feels best for you versus what's just good for the numbers, right? All this stuff is all part of that same thing, and needing to delegate and leverage other people's time, energy, and tools, and needing to step away, stop being the do-it-yourselfer. So I
Yeah,
love all this advice.
we call it the joy factor.
Yeah.
And because what happens is we have this mentality, I will do whatever it takes. And
Mm.
the whatever it takes mentality means that you're willing to sacrifice your relationships, you're willing to sacrifice your health, you're willing to sacrifice your peace of mind, you're willing to sacrifice your sleep, and then you resent everything that you just said you were going to create. And
Yeah.
so it's both. It's like I will do whatever it takes, and whatever it takes might like look very different than what you think whatever it takes looks like.
Oh, so true. Well,
Mhm.
before I get to my last question, Stacy, what's the best way if people want to learn more about what you're teaching? What's the best place they can go to do that?
They can send an email to scale@organized2scale.com, and they can access all of our podcasts and trainings and resources there that can help them architect, build, and operate their businesses and portfolios.
Awesome. That's very generous. Really appreciate that, Stacy. All right. So final question for you is, obviously it's the Money Ripple show, right? And we're all about creating that ripple effect. What do you feel your ripple effect is? Or what do you feel you're here to be or do on this planet?
Mm. Normalize the entrepreneurial journey.
Hmm.
I think as entrepreneurs and leaders, we have this warrior mentality, this whatever it takes, I'm the strong one, I'm going to show up and be fierce. And it can be a lonely journey. And there's also a lot of pride, ego, grit that is required. It's kind of like professional athletes. You want them to have that little bit of swagger because it gets them to perform. And sometimes we get trapped in the performance perfection cycle and we lose ourselves in it. And we become our business. We become that. So I really feel called to just normalize it so that people can win eyes open and eyes closed and have real inside and outside freedom.
Mm. Love that. It's great. See, Stacy, I knew we were going to talk more than just about like, integrator visionary. This is more than just EOS. This has got a whole new emotional and even a spiritual level, isn't it?
Yes. Well, I think we're whole beings, mind, body, soul.
Right.
And if when we fragment, we are not bringing all of ourselves to our businesses, our portfolios, our families, and we're whole beings. And I don't think it has to be either or. I don't think we have to fragment. I think it can be both. And I hope to be modeling that. I hope to be inspiring people to do it. And I hope to be sharing the kind of the messy skeletons in the closet that I've personally experienced so that I can say, hey, you can let your skeletons out and we could all be good and we could still build and scale businesses because it's fun and we can heal in the process too.
Amen to that. Well, Stacey, I appreciate your time today. This has been so wonderful. Like I said, we're going to put your stuff in the show notes, the social media handles for you guys to follow Stacey. Please do so. Also, the scale at Organize the Scale email to be able to get some of that free information and things to help you be able to grow and scale your own business in your own life. Definitely check that out. Again, Stacey, appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it so much, Chris.
Absolutely. And everybody else, again, if you want to be able to have more freedom in your life right now, the best way to do it is to take action and really make it happen in that sense, right? Be sure to actually not just be a hearer of the word, but be a doer as well. Go and make it a wonderful and prosperous week. And we'll see you later.